Well, welcome to another episode of Tall in the Saddle podcast. We have actually got a couple back-to-back recently, which is really good. We're getting back in the swing of things. Please go on our Facebook, YouTube, and potentially Spotify pretty soon and check out the episodes that we've released. And any ones you haven't seen, please like and share. We haven't said that recently, but I'd like to get these out to different viewers, and that works by you liking and sharing and subscribing to the channel. So please do that. We are, as usual, in the Spirit of Virginia Arena at the National Center for Healthy Veterans. The snow is actually starting to melt today. I walked across the courtyard here. Yeah, man, it's been slick around here. So we're grateful for the sun shining and the weather starting to break a little bit. And we are excited to have a new guest with us today. So without further ado, I'm going to let Jake introduce our guest, our friend.
Yeah. Today we've got Joe McDonald. Joe is a horse trainer, colt starter, cattleman, roper. Got a deep background in horses and works with his wife Kaylee out of Blacksburg, Virginia. And Joe and I have gotten to be friends over the past few years. And he's been down here spending some time with us this month. So we figured, well, while he's here, we did a podcast on his podcast. He's a podcaster too. On the Move is his show, and we got to do a recording with him the other night where he interviewed us. So now we're flipping the tables and we're going to interview him. So, Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, man. I'm excited to finally get to do it.
How does it feel to be on that side of the microphone?
I feel like it's a lot less pressure. The other day, Bob said he didn't Bob said he didn't like being interviewed when you did mine, but I don't know.
You made it real natural. You made it work.
There you go. I don't know. I've only done a couple of the other direction, like Dalton's and stuff like that, but those are, I don't know. I guess those are different because it's like people already know. It's like talking to your friends you're just recording. So.
Yeah, kind of like today.
Yep.
It's not like we're strangers.
Nope. No, not by any means.
So do you like, which one do you prefer? If you say you prefer one or the other, because you've interviewed friends and you've also interviewed people you don't know from Adam, out of curiosity, what do you think is your preference?
I mean, I definitely like interviewing other people. I think it's a good ratio because, I don't know, we're probably close to 150 episodes or something with On the Move. So, and I've maybe been on like 2 or 3 podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't mind coming on someone else's podcast because it's easy. You can talk about most people are good at talking about themselves, but I wouldn't want to do it every week, like for my own podcast.
No, what I'm asking though is like your podcast. Do you prefer having someone you already know on there, or do you prefer having someone you don't hardly know from Adam?
Don't know from Adam.
You like that more?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just kind of naturally, I'm predisposed to small talk and stuff like that. And honestly, those are the coolest conversations because I think sometimes the people get invigorated because, you know, you think about your life, you're around people who like know the context of your life all the time. So if I call up so-and-so because I saw them on Instagram or whatever it may be, it's like they're telling their story for their first time ever because I don't know them at all. So they could tell me, you know, and I did this over here, and it's like everybody in their business and their family and like knows they spent their time in their 20s doing this, but I don't know about it. So I'll probably be more excited about it than anyone they interact with normally.
I think you'd ask better questions too. I catch myself, and I pray I don't do it today, but I know already like about you, and so you're not as inquisitive. Like you forget to ask because you're like, you know it. You just assume everybody else knows it. You just like, I've walked out of interviews or podcasts with people, and I'm like, gosh, like I should have talked about that, and I just took it for granted. So
one thing I found in the beginning with On the Move was we get like a big name coming on the show or whatever, and so I'd listen to other podcasts with them to learn more about them. And the podcast ended up okay, but you listen back to it, and it was kind of like I did the Walmart brand version of the podcast I'd already listened to. And then I listened back to other episodes where I didn't do as much research, which, you know, could feel like you're just allowing yourself to not be prepared. But I kind of intentionally do that now. Like when I find out about somebody, I don't go read their book or listen to a podcast or see a YouTube interview. I actually kind of actively try to avoid it and then talk to them myself, because otherwise you end up tugging at the same strings that you hear other people tug at, and you get the same stories.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, before this becomes a podcast about podcasting, Joe, as I've gotten to know you over the last few years, there have been small pieces of your story that have unfolded over time, and I've learned more and more and more about your background, and it's really been funny for me because I don't know, you're very quiet, you're very unassuming, and it's easy to maybe think of somebody like that as very one-dimensional. And as I've come to find out, you're not. You've been kind of around and done a few things. So I kind of just want to get a little bit of background about you. You know, roll through early life and how you ended up in Blacksburg as a horse trainer, how we got to now.
yeah, sure. So I grew up in Blacksburg, Virginia. My family has a farm there where I'm the 8th generation McDonald on there now. So, and it's, like pre-Revolutionary War farm, old Virginia farm, all that deal. So I grew up there. My mom was a horse trainer in her pre-child years. I think she bounced around kind of like a lot of horse trainers do, but I think she operated out of Maryland quite a bit, training event horses, 3-day eventing horses. And she also supplemented her income or made a living as well, being a steeplechase jockey up there. And then when I rolled around, she leaned more into the dressage, got big into the dressage, trained at least one Grand Prix horse that I know of, trained that one all the way through. And I think she had a hand in other horses that, she'd have it for a time, and then one way or another it would arrive at Grand Prix. So
Where did she and your dad meet?
So she was actually, when my mom's originally from Marion, Virginia.
Okay.
And so when she, best I can tell is she just needed to get out of Maryland.
Yeah.
Like, not needed to get out, but wanted to be closer to home.
Sure.
Parents' age and all that stuff. And so she was actually over in Radford.
Okay.
And she got into the intercollegiate riding deal. And to my knowledge, she founded the Radford riding program.
Okay.
The Redcoats.
Okay.
And so she was over there, and my dad, his side of the family, they all come from, his mother's side of the family comes from Bland County, and they were big on like breeding horses back in the day. I actually, when I was very young, I knew my great grandfather, so my grandma's dad.
Mm-hmm.
He was still alive. And they did the whole, they bred walking horses, heavy horses like plow horses, these pre-tractor days for a lot of that. And then if you're in Appalachia and you really get the money, you get to breed saddlebreds.
Yeah, buddy.
That's especially back in the day.
Horse.
Yeah, those were the sports cars. So that side of the family had a long history of breeding horses, and my dad had one of those horses, and there's still, I think we got one gelding left that's by a mare or out of a mare by the family stud.
Gotcha.
Right. So there's one gelding left on the place.
Last of the breed.
Yeah. He's our mid-20s babysitter, running with all the yearlings now. So my dad had one of those horses, and they were like, "Oh, we need to sell it." But someone said, "Well, if you take it over to this gal in Radford, she can teach you to jump, and you'll sell it for a lot more." And so she had it. He took it to her, had it forever, however long. Basically, he was a client of hers, and she taught it to jump, I guess made some money, and he was like, oh, there might be something to that, because if you know my dad, he's never opposed to any money making endeavor.
Well, and so that was kind of the genesis of my question. Is I was trying to figure out how Bill McDonald met a steeplechase jockey and jumper trainer from Maryland.
Yeah,
And I was trying to connect
that's
those dots.
That's
Like,
a
that
very valid
doesn't
question.
make sense.
Yeah. So to my knowledge, and again, this is all before me.
Yeah.
But to my knowledge, she had moved back to kind of Southwest Virginia.
Yeah.
Because that's where her sisters and family
I got
were.
you.
So she was kind of making a go of it, doing the more stable collegiate riding thing.
Gotcha.
Stuff.
So it was horse trading.
Yep.
Is what happened.
Yep. And so I guess he figured, he kind of took its shine to her, and actually ended up bringing her a couple more horses, and then they dated off and on, and got married, and then I came around, I guess.
I wonder if it's actually cheaper if you marry a horse trainer, if it's more expensive. I feel like it's probably more expensive in the long run.
That would be a good question. I would say it's probably
In the long run.
Yeah, I'd
Probably
say
not a
just
good
pay
investment.
them up front.
Yeah, pay them up front. All right, keep going. Sorry.
Most smart horse girls marry a farrier.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, we're a vet.
Or yeah, the vet's probably the best way to go.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So back to your life.
Right. Yeah. So I grew up in Blacksburg, and we always had horses, and my dad runs a cattle farm there. When I was growing up, it was still like my dad was running the place, but there were some holdovers, just like any generational operation. So there was sheep and goats and cattle, and they were basically phasing the goats and sheep out and building the cow herd. That kind of happened in my lifetime. But when I was young, we had all three plus the horses. And I always, I can't even remember not having a horse. Like my first word was the name of my pony. Which I don't even remember that. Like, I remember being young and having ponies, but the first pony, I was so little, it was a little white pony named Dixie. And so Dixie was my first word. And yeah, just kind of grew from there.
That's so Southern of you.
I know. Right? Yeah. It's very, very old Southern.
Appalachian royalty right there.
Yeah, 100%. So anyway, just kind of ran around being feral like a lot of farm kids do. Like, as soon as I was able to ride horses or my ponies without supervision, I went and did it. And at that time, there was a barn really close to our property, that they'd have little fun shows, and you could, like, our place is on a dead end road there, but if you kept going on the gravel part of that dead end road, you could ride right there. So like on Saturdays in the summer, I just saddle up my pony in the morning, I'd ride over to the barn, show them the fun show all day, and then ride back to our farm.
You bet.
Yeah.
What a childhood.
Yeah. It was, I mean, for me, it was just normal. And we lived far enough away that, we're not in the middle of nowhere by any means, but I wasn't close to really any kids my age. So that's kind of like what I did.
Right.
Just be outside and ride the horses. And so got into, like, I liked it all. Like messing with the cows and doing all this stuff, trail riding. But I got into Pony Club through my mom, did the 3-day eventing. And then in Pony Club, you do games and dressage, and you show jump and all the stuff. But the 3-day eventing was probably the most fun thing for me. And then I also remember as a kid, my favorite horse movie was by far The Man from Snowy River. And so I think I was 12 years old for my 12-year-old Christmas, somewhere around then, 11, 12 years old. I got an Australian stock saddle. And so I remember it was cold Christmas Day, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go riding this thing.
Yeah, you are.
And they were like, it's really cold. What we could do is we could oil it, condition it today, take good care of it, and then we could go ride tomorrow and be about 15 degrees warmer. And it was snow flurries and everything. I was like, I'm gonna go out right now and gallop around in this thing. And so I remember once I got that, You seen our place is pretty up and down.
Yeah, it's pretty snowy river kind of deal.
Yeah, there is not a hill on that place that I haven't galloped the horse down.
Did you ever whip?
Yeah.
I was gonna say you got to.
Had the whip, had my spurs up by his ears and we're just going straight down. And yeah, looking back, it's a miracle I didn't die, but I did that a lot. And that was kind of why I liked the 3-day eventing, was because of the cross country.
Right.
Like we just had a lot of space and a bunch of down logs and never enough people to cut them all up. So I would just literally run up and down the hills and jump logs and do all that. And that was kind of like my first real activity with horses, was doing that.
There's a lot to be said for that. We touched on it with in our last podcast with Carol, but just the ability to go into the open unsupervised and create, imagine. I think that's probably the piece of childhood. Like when I get stressed or I need to relax, that's what I hunt. Like just that open space, open time.
Yeah.
To just be.
Yeah.
And if you have a horse to go 9-0 on and jump over logs at the same time, that makes it even better.
Yeah.
And if you're in the horse industry and you've never had the opportunity to just spend time doing dumb stuff on a horse, you should give it a shot. It's a good way to spend time.
Yeah, 100%. So that was me probably up until about 14. And then I kind of got away from the competition side of things. Like I got into high school and was just really, like about any teenage boy, really wanting a place to belong. So I got into sports. I got really big into track and field, cross country, all that stuff. And that, looking back, it paid off for me because those guys are all still my best friends to this day. A lot of people like have stories about going to college and making lifelong friends, but I was kind of taking inventory the other day. I've got one friend from college that I met in college that I would say is like, we regularly keep up with each other. Now I got other people that if I see them, it's good to catch up with them.
Is her name Kaylee?
No, Kaylee's a little more than friends, but you know what I mean, as far as a circle of guys go.
I got you.
Like I'm in a group chat with, I think 14 other guys from high school, and we talk in that every day, and every year we do a guys trip together for our fantasy football league, and pretty consistently, like all 14 of us are there. We've all been to everyone else's weddings and all that stuff. So
it's pretty
yeah,
good.
it's pretty unique. I didn't realize it at the time until
14.
we got
not small. Like even if it was 10, that's still not a small number.
Yeah. So, but that's been good because like there's the good. Pretty much all of that group is like kind of ride or dies. Like I could call those guys for anything.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty unique. So anyway, got into that. Still did like using the horses on the farm and everything like that, using them to work cattle. And I didn't necessarily, like, we never roped or anything like that, but it was still, that was a really enjoyable thing to do, was use the horse as a tool and do a job and all that stuff.
Is that something your dad was doing before you got involved in that?
Yep.
Always.
And his dad was big into it. Like I've got really fond memories of, we've got some summer pasture that we own over in Bland, and he sends the bred heifers there every summer.
Okay.
And now it goes pretty good, but when I was little, the fences out there were not good at all. And like I have really fond memories of basically going through the hole in the fence and then absolutely bushwhacking a trail trying to track down these bred heifers with my grandfather, because there would be pretty much my dad and the other employees would be like, oh, well, I don't think we can go through there. I don't think we can go down that or this or that. But my grandfather, he was an officer in the Korean War, so he was pretty adamant we could do whatever we needed to do to get the job done. So like,
He was not concerned.
yeah. So as a kid, I remember like following him through some pretty sketchy places, but having a ball doing it. So
That's funny.
yeah,
That adds context to our conversation last night. That's funny.
yeah,
That's
yeah. So so did all that, and then got to like the end of high school. I was fixing to go to Virginia Tech. Went to Virginia Tech for an engineering degree, but by the time I got to the end of high school, like I was so burnt out on track and field. I was just over it. And so I was like, well, I'll get back into the horse thing. And so I rode on the equitation team. And then I also rode on the polo team there for, got into polo. That was a lot of fun. That's probably one of the most fun things I've done horseback, is getting to play polo for a couple of years while we basically had the numbers to field a men's team.
Right.
And I think to date, that's my like little claim to fame. I was the first ever men's captain of a Virginia Tech polo team. Like they had girls teams, women's teams up before then, but I was the first men's captain. And we kind of went up and down the East Coast playing at different places.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So obviously, you know, I train horses for a living now. So the most valuable thing I got out of college was my wife, which was a really good thing. I don't really regret college at all because of that. But I don't make my living as an engineer anymore.
You said something to me the other day that I didn't realize about your engineering career. So you were water systems, is that right?
Industrial systems.
Industrial systems.
Yeah. Which, like, what I did when I got out of college, I was technically a software engineer.
Okay.
And it was a software that you could cater towards kind of any big system that needed to be maintained. Like it was a maintenance software. So some big clients for us were like Pilot, Flying J, like maintaining all the gas stations. But my specific clients were water systems, meaning like San Gabriel Valley Water, who supplies all the fresh water to Los Angeles.
Right.
Or
that was the one that caught my attention. I was like, dang, that's a job right there.
Yeah, it was crazy and very eye opening at the time. But yeah, so that it's not necessarily exactly what I went to school for was the water deal, but that's kind of how I made a living out of college.
Okay.
It was like San Gabriel and went up to San Jose, and did a lot of work with San Jose Water too.
Okay. And at some point in there, you went to Australia for a while, right?
Yeah. So like I said earlier, my dream since I was a little kid was to be Jim Craig. Like, I wanted to be the man from Snowy River so bad. And you know, looking back on it, like I think about this from time to time because I grew up in the eastern United States and around a lot of basically English riders. But, you know, like a lot of men, especially like straight men, I'll just say it, there's not a ton of examples of like people you could grow up and be like in that world. And it was cool. Like I fox hunted a little bit and I liked the huntsman and all that stuff, but I wasn't around that enough. So for me, like the man from Snowy River, he was doing all that stuff, but he was still cowboy.
Right.
And so that's what I thought was so cool about like the Australian deal was because it is an Anglo influenced riding style. I mean, everything's homogenized now because of the internet. But back then when they shot Man from Snowy River, like you could tell if someone was Australian by how they rode.
Yeah.
Like they had a way of riding versus if someone was from California, how they rode.
Yep.
Right. All this stuff. So it was that Anglo influence that I was so familiar with, right? Like a forward seat, a closed hip angle, a little shorter stirrup a lot of times. So I was like, those guys ride like how I ride, but they're all like tough and like doing cool, masculine, adventurous things. So that's why I was so attracted to that, I think. So when the opportunity came up in college to study abroad, I was like, well, it's on my bucket list to go to Australia. So I did a semester at a little ag school called Charles Sturt University, which is the university. It's kind of like, I don't know, kind of like how a lot of universities have different campuses. But I was in a town called Wagga Wagga, which is in New South Wales, about halfway between Sydney and Melbourne.
Okay.
So kind of like the southeastern, and it's on the plains. It's probably similar to like Kansas or Nebraska type looking place. But you drive 4 hours, or you drive 2 hours south of there, and you're like in the snowy mountains. So I went out there and just had a ball. Loved it. It was definitely I went out there when I was 20 years old. I think I would enjoy very different like parts of it now, because when you go out there from the United States and you're 20 years old, it's like all of a sudden you can go to bars and like do all these things you can't do in the US. And like no one parties like Australians party.
Nobody.
So that was really cool. But I did get to do a lot of cool stuff. I got to my good friend, who I still keep up with on Facebook, we message each other every now and then, Stephen Rauch. I got in with Stephen Rauch, and he was big on these like cowboy challenges over there. And I'll butcher what they have to do, but like the big one is near there, which we went to, was the Man from Snowy River gathering in Corryong, Victoria. And it's like you're in Snowy River country, and they do like a reenactment of the whatever they called it, but basically like corralling the Bermuda brumbies.
Muster, right?
Yeah, muster. That was it. But so they have like a reenactment of that, and then this competition with all the, like a men's open and amateur and all this stuff. And you got to like do a cross country course, but like bareback. There's another trail course, but you've got to you're sitting there with two horses, and you got to saddle your horse, and then you got to pack the other horse, and then you got to take them through the trail course. There's a shoeing component. You got to shoe your pack horse, I think, and you're like judged on that. And then if you're a finalist, they do a buck jump, which is basically a ranch bronc ride, but you have a stock whip in your hand. And so they crack the whip. Like if you do it well, they crack the whip on the back end of the jump. And then they're holding on with the other deal. And then they do that in the finals. And then they also have a deal where they turn out one of the brumbies, because there's wild horses like all over that place. They turn out one of those wild horses. They don't rope over there, but they put them in like a pen, probably about the size of maybe like 2/3 of this arena with a brumby. And they've got basically like a calf, like 4-H halter. And they like let it real low at the bottom, and they ride up and like flip it over them, and they pull the lead rope, and they like, you get 2 minutes to basically catch it and like show how good you can get it leaded in 2 minutes. So it gets pretty Western pretty quick. Some guys never even catch their drumbeat. It just all depends. But you can imagine how close you have to get to make that halter work.
It's almost like those, I don't know, they're Hispanic. I don't know exactly what country they're from, but there's two girls that are all over the internet that pick up bareback horses. I think they're stock contractors, and they pick up their own horses, but they do it with tie strings versus rope.
Dang.
Like they will pick the rider up and then sling a tie string around that horse's neck and lead it out.
Yeah, kind of a similar deal. But yeah, to me, I'm sure they have got a name for it, but to me it just looked like basically a souped up 4-H halter where you could pull on the lead rope and it tightens up nose band. So anyway, that was really cool. Steve, I also got to go to a camp draft down there, which I don't know if you guys know what camp drafting is, but it's kind of like their version of cow horse, reined cow horse.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, and so it's cool. It would blow up here if we had the land and the livestock to do it, because they just have so much more land. But basically, it's a giant arena, like a giant oval arena, and then there's a little kind of sorting pen next to it. You walk into the sorting pen, you sort one cow out, and you basically box it against the gates, and then after you box it for a minute, they tell you to open it, and there's a pattern. It's like very similar to a barrel pattern.
Yep.
And you have to run the cow around
through the pattern. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I can't over exaggerate like how big the space is. Like, it is not the Will Rogers Coliseum. Like, they're on those stock horses that are the Australian stock horses that are got a lot of thoroughbred in them, and they are hauling butt, man. Like, they are covering a lot of ground when they do that. So I got to go. I mean, I wasn't any good at it. I'd love to one day go back. I've got more Australian friends now just through the horse world. But I'd love to go back and do like a 2 or 3 week stint where I could just like try my hand at those competitions and everything.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. So I got to camp draft, and then my dad came over, and when we were over there, this is all building something, I swear. I got to meet Gerald Egan, who is the guy who did all the stunt riding for Man from Snowy River.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because I was going to school with his son, and I still know his son, Jack Egan. But we actually got to go to his place. He's a thoroughbred racehorse trainer now, but he did all the stunt riding for all the Man from Snowy River movies. Basically, that movie turned him into a stock contractor. He did all the stunt riding and provided all the stock for Quigley Down Under when they did that movie. He's the guy, like, when Quigley gets there, they tell him to grab that bucket, and he runs his horse by and picks up the bucket and jumps a fence and then runs off and then stops, and then Quigley shoots the bucket and the whole deal. So that was cool, because at the time that was kind of like getting to meet one of your heroes.
Yeah.
Right? So
what do you mean at the time?
Yeah, no, it's still great. It's still great.
Awesome now.
But
when you're 20.
Yeah, when you're 20 and again, you had that childhood where you're just imagining being that guy, and then you get to meet the guy who was the guy. It was pretty cool. It was pretty special. So I've always thought I need to holler at Jack, his son, and figure out how to get Gerald on the podcast.
Oh, that'd be sweet. Yeah, that'd be really fun.
Yeah. So yeah, went to Australia.
Make that happen, Joe.
Yeah, I'll work on it.
I'll listen to that.
He's on the list for sure. But
maybe we get him first.
We'll race. We'll race.
Do it. I'll be all for it, man. So that was a really cool trip, and that did kind of invigorate just my horse passion even more, because going out there, I got to, I don't know, I think just because land was a little cheaper, horses are just so accessible in Australia. They've got more thoroughbreds per capita than any country in the world. Every small town has a racetrack, and there's a day out of the year where it's that town is the town of racing. At the time, before Queen Elizabeth died, when I was there, in Australia, they race thoroughbreds every day of the year except for Christmas and the Queen's birthday. So, there were a lot of horses around, and it's just kind of ingrained into their culture, just like it is in parts of the U.S. But
yeah, it's almost like rodeo for them to a certain extent. It's their background, and there's so much of, I'm going to go out on a limb here and just guess, but there's so much of Australian history that's tied up in particularly Irish history, and then also British and everything. But a lot of Irish immigrants and criminals ended up in Australia, and they brought with them that thoroughbred race culture that's so ingrained in Ireland too.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and it's just, again, I think a big part of it is a land thing. like how much ground they have to cover. Now, don't get me wrong. There's like cities and metropolises, but it's just there's rural Australia is way more spread out than most of rural U.S. And so, yeah, horses I think just were a big part of their lives for a long time because of that. So, no, that was kind of a
when you have to carry extra fuel in the bed of your pickup just to get from the airport to the station.
Yeah, exactly.
Horses that can refuel on the go is kind of a good option.
Yeah, and that is the one time too going to Australia because I got to work on some different places while I was down there. So one time I've ever worked cattle from a dirt bike, and I understand why, because we drove out to the working pens and we got on those dirt bikes and we rode at like 35, 40 miles an hour for like 2 hours. And then we got to the cows. And this was like first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
So we get to the cows.
70-mile circle.
Yeah. And then we get them, and man, they had fence for days. At least this place did. And basically we get them into this big alley, maybe like half the width of this arena. And it was like we drove that for like 2 hours, and then we gathered this herd, and then we drive them back down this alley that working pens, and that took, I don't know, 5 hours, and then we worked them and shipped them. So it was like, I mean, it made it faster getting there.
Yeah.
But then, man, when you got to go 2 miles an hour on a dirt bike behind a like herd across
that point you just push it with your feet.
Yeah, no, you're doing this for hours, and you're like, oh my gosh, and these regular cattle, yeah. So that was a unique experience. It's still the only time I've ever used a dirt bike. Probably the only time. I can't even think of another time I've even ridden a dirt bike. But yeah, that was a unique.
I try not to.
Yeah, same here.
It's never ended well.
Yeah, same here. So no, that was cool, and then in college too was kind of when I got my first taste of like colt starting and what you call like natural horsemanship. Like it was the first time I remember I got tapes from this guy called Brad Cameron, and he's a mule guy because my dad had like gotten into the mule thing, and I just
still is.
Yeah, still is. But
great,
I had to start this mule. I didn't know anything about him, so I assumed it's like, well, I've started horses, but I gotta get DVDs to like educate me on what to do with the mules. And Brad was good hand and had really good information, but you know, he learned from like the Ray Hunts and Buck Brandemans of the world, and it was all kind of in that same vein. And so started messing with that mule, and I was like, oh, I bet some of this stuff work on horses pretty good. And
maybe.
Yeah. Maybe. And so that was like the first time I started that mule, and then for like a family friend, it was the first time I ever got paid to work with a horse. As I started.
You lost your non-pro card.
Yeah. Yeah. So I started a little like a little Rocky Mountain stud colt or something, and I don't know if you've ever dealt with Rocky Mountain horses, but those things are puppy dogs. I mean, he was just so easy, like follow you down the stairs if you let him.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We had one here. It's a funny story. We had one here that was a puppy dog one day, and the next day, completely unhinged.
Oh yeah.
And like we went through this over and over, trying to figure out what it was like. He'd be great, and then completely unhinged. And it finally started doing some X-rays and stuff, and found out he had some sort of really weird arthritic issue in his spine.
Yeah.
And so that was
dang.
the
Yeah, that's tough.
But yeah, when they're not hurting, they're puppy dogs.
Yeah, no, they're great personalities. You know, don't really do much with gaited horses, but when people ask me about gaited horses, I tell them if you can get one that doesn't have any genetic stuff going on, because there are just less of them than a lot of horses. But if you can get a good one, I can't think of a better trail horse than those Rockies, because golly, they have the best disposition.
Yeah, they're a whole lot more like riding a quarter horse than those gaited.
Correct. Yeah, totally agree. So,
so how did you go from software engineer
Mhm.
to horse trainer?
God, I guess, wanted me to, because so here's the thing. I got out of school and I moved down to South Carolina, and I'm 23 years old. I've done some stuff, but I haven't been a lot of places. I got like the Australia trip was really the biggest thing I'd ever done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm making really good money to travel all over the US and meet different people and experience new things. So I just think it's like the bee's knees.
Yeah.
And so I do that for a couple years. And then COVID hits.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we could still do our job to some extent, but we're just doing it all remote. And I'm, working most days, like working out of my bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And it occurs to me that I think I just like the people I worked with and traveling. I don't think I like this job.
When you took away the fun bits, the rest of the job wasn't great.
Yeah. And that was why I went to that place. There were some really cool guys that ran that company. It was like a 50-something person company when I went there. And so it was a cool deal. And I kind of knew it wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, but I was like, I want to learn how to be more like these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those deals where if I wanted to get breakfast with the CEO before work, I could, and like pick his brain about stuff. And I would do that. And so I really enjoyed that aspect. But yeah, just once COVID hit and kind of got isolated. And the other thing I did was I temporarily moved back to family farm for part of that, because they were just talking about, well, like at one point the talk of it was you're going to have to like you won't be able to go to your boarding barn. And I had a horse at a boarding barn at that time because I was still like recreationally rode. And I was like, well, if they're not even going to let me go see my horse, like what's the point of being down here in South Carolina? I'll just go back to the farm. We got internet there. So I did that too. And that went on for a while. And I kind of had it in my head. I was like, this is going to sound bad probably, but I knew I really enjoyed working with horses, and I'd go and I'd do more things and I'd do more things. And then I'd meet people and they're really nice folks. But I had this thought of like, I can't believe that guy's making a living doing this and I'm not. Okay. Which probably isn't the right train of thought. I'm not saying you should go around thinking that, because it's kind of holier than thou. But I saw that. I was like, I could do what that person's doing in terms of their ability with a horse, once you get into it, find out there's a lot more than just training horses. But I saw that and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to, I think I need to do this. And honestly, Kaylee was my biggest supporter. She was like, you're miserable. Like, you're going to do this. You need to just do this. But whatever, you can't do what you're doing now because you are miserable. And that was another part of it too, was I kind of saw where the consulting road led you. People do it when they're young and then get out. But if you're still traveling that much for work, most people end up overweight and divorced. And I didn't want to be those things.
Yeah.
Not everyone, but it's the trend, right? And so I had to have a good long look in the mirror about who are the people in my life that I want to be like them when I grow up. And none of them were doing what I did for a living. So I was like, I got to change something. And a big long, this, I'm kind of mentally building myself up to do this. And I'm maybe at 90%. And then that day they had a company-wide meeting. And they said the company was getting sold to Accenture, which I don't know if you guys know of Accenture, but they're big. They're kind of like a Deloitte or something like that. A big multinational, over 500,000 people work for the company. It's which isn't a bad thing, but it wasn't something I wanted to do. Was work for one of those big companies. 'Cause I had a lot of friends from college that did that, and I think most of them were pretty unfulfilled at the time. So I was like, okay, well, that was in November, and I was like, okay, I'll give myself this winter to work and save money and kind of get some stuff lined up. Because at the same time, I had started riding. I'd have 2 outside horses at a time. So I'd work my remote job, have 2 outside horses.
Mm-hmm.
I was booked out like 2 years in advance. And so I was doing the math. I was like, how many could I reasonably ride in a day and take care of just by myself? I was like, I could give myself, if I took all these horses right now, I could give myself a 3-month runway of like being full time and doing this. So I was like, maybe I just need to do that. And all those people, probably about half those people, called me on that same day that they announced the company was selling. So I kind of looked up in the air. I was like, all right, I get it. Like I'm going.
Sometimes God talks louder than others.
Yeah. And so that was, which was funny too, because I definitely took it as a sign, but I was nowhere near in the same spot in my faith as I am now. The majority of my 20s was really hard for me because I lost my mother to cancer at 18, so that was my freshman year of college. My sophomore year of college, my best friend from first grade onward killed himself. And then the year I graduated college, my roommate, who I had lived with for 4 years of college, he killed himself. And so that all happened in like 4.5 year span, something like that. And it was pretty easy for me to just be over it.
Yeah.
As far as
it's like a loss.
I'm like whatever, man. Like it just, I guess maybe angry is the right word, but it just kind of felt like, all right, no one's coming to help. Like you don't have all that happen to you, especially in very formative years, without just getting jaded about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty jaded because I dealt, especially those first 2 years of college. I mean, that was like my mom and my best friend. And that happened probably within 14 months of each other. Mm-hmm. So those were probably the 2 closest people to me in the world at the time. So that all to be said, when all this is going on, it's like, okay, I'm still taking this as a sign from the universe, but it's not like I'm a super bought in, obedient Christian or anything like that. I'm just like, well, this has to be the way. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that makes sense, because I think you can kind of turn your back on religion, but still feel like there's you're meant to do this sort of thing. It's hard to articulate how I felt, but I was pretty angry about everything.
You can be angry with God, resentful of how you feel he's handling things, or your perception of how he's handling things, but still acknowledge the fact that he is in control. And, sounds like you probably had a decent understanding of grace and the fact that you knew you weren't really happy with him, but he was still working your plans out.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing was I just wasn't doing anything bad. I wasn't going, what's the line Bob always used? I wasn't snorting coke off toilet bowls or nothing crazy like that.
It's worst case scenario.
Yeah. Anytime Bob was like, well, I'm like, something bad might happen. He's like, well, is it snorting coke off toilet bowls? No, not that. Why is it always that? But so it wasn't like that, but I really, I just partied a lot and kind of did whatever I wanted because I just didn't care. I was like, well, it doesn't. It just felt like a lot of it didn't matter.
Yeah, well, it's most of us in our 20s, but you dang sure had a little bit more reason to just be a little less, a little more, what's the word? Just whatever the word is.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was cantankerous for sure as far as adhering to a life that I think like God wants us to live.
Mm-hmm.
You got an axe to grind.
I had a big axe to grind. Yeah, had that for a long time, and I still very much like. I know you guys say I'm quiet, but I still very much just feel like I've always been like a chip on my shoulder kind of guy. Like I've dealt with a lot of people, especially doing this horse deal. I've dealt with a lot of people telling me all the things I can't do, and it really, I mean, I don't do well with that. That being said, I have equally as many supportive people, but for me, the haters are a lot louder. I don't know. Maybe it might be like, I'm not comparing myself to Michael Jordan, but like he always talked about, like people would talk about like, oh, he's creating motivation out of nothing. Like that guy didn't say that. Like I could borderline do that at some point. So to get back to the story, I pull the trigger, go full time with the horses, and I never looked back. And I remember at the time, the guy who he still is my financial advisor because I had to get one when my mother passed away. He was like, well, what are you going to, I mean, you have a degree to fall back on and all this stuff. Like, what are you going to do? I was like, I haven't thought about that one bit. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm burning the boats, man. Mm-hmm. Like, if this doesn't work, I ain't going back to the office job. Like, I'll go work construction or something, but I'm not going back. Like, this is going to work, or I don't know what's going to happen.
All right. So we were at Burn the Bridges, not looking back.
Yep. Yeah. So I basically set up shop at family farm and started riding outside horses, and have kind of slowly built the business ever since. Yeah, Kaylee moved to Blacksburg not long after that. We got married, and now she's full-time on the business with me too. We've got a couple employees that help us out. We're just doing our deal.
When did you start doing that full-time?
April 1st of 2022.
And she's more on the I'm going to not say the right thing, but she does a lot of the jumping.
Yeah. She trains hunter jumpers mainly. She goes around. She travels a little more than me, just like locally, and teaches lessons a little more than I do. I teach some lessons. I've got a couple show clients, or sometimes if they're close enough, after I've started a horse for somebody, I'll go out and do a handful of lessons just to kind of help them with the transition.
She trains more people. You train more horses?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times. And she's, her knack, she's never really like started colts or anything, but she's, in my opinion, very good at developing show horses, right? Like, Jake and I will talk about getting a horse ready to do a job, whether it's roping or working a cow or whatever it might be. Like, she is very good at getting inside the mind of a horse and where it needs to be at mentally, to where it can go and calmly and smoothly jump 8 jumps and make it look really nice. Because that's kind of, she's lived in that world her whole life. She's just really good at it. Yeah. So our business now, training is definitely the biggest component of it. A lot of young horses, either just horses I'm starting that are going to go on to be like trail horses, or working ranch horses, but now we've kind of gotten more into the show horses where, especially with Kaylee, we'll have them. So I'll start the horse and ride it for a while. And then once it gets into its 4-year-old year, that's usually when we like to start letting them jump. We feel like that's physically when they can kind of start taking that concussion. They've developed enough to be able to do that. So by the time it's 4, maybe I started as like an early 3-year-old, and it gets a year of just kind of being a good ranch horse or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kaylee will start to take it over. It'll be like a blend for us in the 4-year-old year, and then by the time it's 5, she's out and showing it, and it's pretty much all transitioned to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like that Betty horse that you guys had, that you sold that horse. Or,
Yep. She's down in Georgia. She's a 3-day event horse now.
Yeah, but it's pretty neat to see like a 3-day event horse, or a horse that's you know it can jump, and Kaylee can go show it, and then you can put it in a bridle and go rope it a branding on it. And so if you were going to buy a horse that you wanted to be completely well-rounded, McDonald Equine is the place to go.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool mare. I don't think it's a very big list. I mean, we did everything with that mare. Like, it was stupid, all the stuff we did with that mare. Kaylee's shown her. She has gone down to the Tryon Equestrian Center and won the meter class at an A show with her. Or she's won like a combined training at the local event show. But I've also taken her to Oklahoma and branded calves and Osage with her, or like in our place, like she can go straight up in a set of roam halls and do her job, or kind of like I've roped some mean stuff. Some of it's been with Derek. Me and that mare one time, we kind of saved Derek Chavalier's ass.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Derek.
How does Derek keep popping into our podcast?
Dude, because he's the guy, man. He's cowboy's cowboy.
He's the cowboy we all want to be when we grow up.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, I remember we were out there visiting Derek and Zoe, and we were there for a week with just a trailer load of colts and that mare.
Yeah.
And I was out there, and he had a heifer that she'd had like placenta hanging out of her for like a handful of days. And I mean, where they live, you're just out there. It's kind of that like northeast corner. It's almost Kansas. Like, you're 15 minutes from the Kansas line, and there's nothing around but windmills and cows.
Brushing.
Yeah,
brushing the hollers, and that's about it. What do they call them up there? It's not hollers.
Yeah,
draws.
And the
draws, yeah.
I would guess. But so anyway, we go, and he's on this younger horse, like a 4-year-old, and he ropes this thing, and it's a heifer, but it's a pretty big soggy heifer, and his saddle starts going up this horse's neck immediately. And I was like, "What are we doing?" He's like, I can't stop her," and so he's just like kind of up on this horse's neck, like trying to stay on and I like run up there and neck this thing and stop it, and then Zoe comes in and heals it, and then Derek has to get off and like work the ground and do all the placenta and everything. But that was on that Betty mare, and I mean, again, she's big old soggy heifer, but I mean, that was probably a 1,200-pound thoroughbred mare, and like when they're big, it's helpful, but you get any of those thoroughbreds built like that, like, they don't quit. Like, they talk about a horse with an axe to grind. Like, that mare had an axe to grind about everything. If she put her mind to it, she'd do it.
Yeah.
And then I also I kind of fooled around with the polo cross deal. I used her for polo cross, and she was a weapon on that too. She was probably a little big for that. Because a lot of those guys at the top level are using those Australian stock horses, and they just got more turn to them. But I mean, she was pretty solid. Like, someone handier than me could have played her at the top level, and she would have like fit into someone's string. So that mare had a lot of jobs. She's been all up and down the East Coast and out west. She's been out there a couple times.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just don't think there's a lot of horses that can have done all those jobs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that was a pretty cool mare, and definitely kind of she embodied everything we were trying to produce with our program.
Right. Right. What would you say? We'll get into some nuts and bolts here, but define you started to touch on a little bit of, you take them for a year and you get them going. Those are for your horses that you're developing. But when it comes to outside horses that come into your program, what's your program look like? How does that go?
I kind of try to take it from the vantage point of what would the job of a horse trainer be in like 1890. Okay, so like right now it's real easy to be like, well, I want my horse to do this and this and that. And I mean, I love horsemanship, and I want my horses to feel good about all their jobs, right? But if you're sending a horse to a horse trainer in 1890, it's kind of like you and me with our trucks right now. It's like, I just want it to work when it says to work.
Right.
It's like when I put the pedal down, I want it to go. Yeah. When I hit the brake, I want it to stop. Yeah. I want to steer.
Consistency and reliability.
100%. And so I think as a young trainer, you can kind of go down the rabbit hole of like overcomplicating a lot of things, right? So I try to, first and foremost, after they're good on the ground, because they got to be good on the ground no matter what. Like, even if they end up, not that we really have had this, but if something were to end up as a lost cause, try and have it be a riding horse. If they're good on the ground, they can go somewhere, right? Like they can go be a vet horse or a whatever. So they got to do that. They got to be good about their feet, all that. And that like is kind of just a non-negotiable. Like I don't see the point if, like, again, it doesn't happen very often, but if someone sent me a horse and I did all these things and like it looked all great at the end of 30 days or 60 days or whatever, what's the point if like the person can't lead it up the driveway and load it in the trailer and the farrier can't just like pick up his feet? Like I'd rather have it be like, you're going to take this horse home and maybe it's not going to be quite as broke as you want, but you're not going to be anxious about being around the horse. Because I see that so much. It's like, especially young horses. People get so anxious about, he does this or he does that. It's just an uneducated horse that hasn't learned how to participate in the whole deal. And then when I get on their back, I try to make it as simple as possible. Like, my hands come back, you need to come back. When my hands go this way, you need to come this way. And just put that real basic foundation on there. And I think that's, the more I do it and the more I focus on the foundation, the easier everything else gets. Right? Like, their feet are tied to your reins, then you have the tools you need to teach them to like steer off your seat and things like that. But that, I would say that's kind of my approach for the general public. And then you can make it more complicated, right? Like if you want to start getting them to work a cow a little bit better, stopping a little harder, then you might get into the body position and are they engaging themselves here and are they doing this or doing that. But in the beginning, man, they need to be your dirt bike. Like, you need to be able to get on them without having to do any groundwork and just steer them around, and they go where you want them to go, and they're gentle enough that if you put them in park, they stay in park. And 9 times out of 10, if you do a good job, they're not going to like go around all hollowed out and ugly looking anyway, because God made them to be athletes, the majority of them. There's some sometimes I wonder what he was doing, but the majority of them are designed to be athletes.
Most of the time people made those.
Yeah. And so So, but like, even if he is all hollowed out and all this stuff, it's like, yeah, but he's doing his job. And then if it's that important to get him doing it at a higher level or being more athletic, you can go in and add that later.
Mm-hmm.
Like a person who's had a big influence on me, I haven't spent a lot of time around him, but I've just paid attention to him, is Nick Dowers.
Mm-hmm.
And he always says it's function then form,
Mm-hmm.
right? So first they've got to stop. Then we can talk about like how they're stopping once they reliably stop. And honestly, if you have a horse for like 90 days, yeah, you can do a lot of good stuff, but like if you can get the function nailed,
yeah,
the horse is set.
Well, I think that's where a lot of people in the horsemanship, especially the natural horsemanship world, get caught in the trap. Is we've heard form so much of this is how a horse should stop.
Yeah.
Right. And we focus so much on that, and we focus on, you should be light with your reins. Mm-hmm. Your horse should move off lightness. But if your horse never understands the function of this means stop, and it means stop now, then you can't build lightness and you can't build form because they're still running through your hands.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's always like layers to that whole deal. Because in the beginning, you've got to give them the time, right, to figure that out. Right?
Yeah, you got to offer lightness.
Yeah,
and you got to give them time because you build that by just letting them figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, but no, you're 100% right. People, I mean, the form, it's sexier to talk about the form, right? Like people want to ride around and talk about like, oh, this guy's a horse master, like some dressage guy or whatever. And, oh, he rides like this and the horse is so engaged and his top line looks like this. It's like, yeah, but for you, like, we got to be able to like trot the figure eight first.
Right.
And then we can talk about how you look trotting the figure eight, but we got to do that first. And I think that gets lost because it's like a lot of things. It's more fun to talk about the end result than the.
But if you push that on a young horse, like you're trying to work on collection before they even know what, impulsion is.
Yep.
Then you're just going to frustrate them.
Yeah.
For the most part, or you're going to end up with them behind the bed or whatever else.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this too, because I got a chance to watch that Boyd Rice tape that you were showing the veteran guys the other day. I really try to look at it now when I'm teaching horses anything. I try to think about how it feels when I learn a new thing kinetically. Like you guys maybe have run it, like teaching your kid to throw a ball, right? Like how does it feel to learn to throw a ball? Like you're not good at it and it takes time and repetition. Well, if you're spurring your kid every time they don't throw the ball right, they're just not going to want to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing I think people don't realize. It's a months and years thing, not a days and weeks thing. And if you want to, have some horse, like if they're going to be able to throw a curveball, you got to be in the backyard every day working on the curveball. It's a good part of it.
There's a huge disconnect in my experience, very limited experience, but there's a huge disconnect between the person you're giving the horse back to and what you've done for however long as a trainer, in my experience. And I'm not implying this about any of your people. My experience says, to your point, the foundation is probably paramount, because even if you did some really cool things and got that horse doing those really cool things, there's a high percentage the person you're giving it back to can't accomplish that or replicate what you were doing, which is going to confuse the horse. And, we were talking about this the other day. I think, there's different breeds. There's definitely different, DNA in these different horses to do different things. But to a point, at the end of the day, these horses are horses and they're going to do horse things, right? Yeah. They're still a horse. They're not a cow. They're not a cat. They're not a fish. They're a horse. And they're
not a human.
They're not a human. Yeah, that's
for God's sake, they're not a human.
Yeah. So they're going to act like a prey animal. Yeah. They're going to have common characteristics. So if you do nail that foundation, which is so important, the owner needs to understand the foundation too, because none of that other stuff really matters if you can't do it. Like you could have a Corvette, but if you don't know how to keep it in the turn, you're just going to wreck it.
Yeah.
You don't know how to, if you don't know how to shift gears, why do you own a manual?
Yeah.
Right? You'd be better off with a Toyota automatic 2-wheel drive car, right?
Yeah.
Something you can manage. And, you know, I agree with you 100%. I think putting a really good foundation on a horse and really covering the basics, and then educating the owner that, look, I know you've heard a bunch of cool stuff on YouTube and you've seen a bunch of you've audited a bunch of clinics and stuff, but you're missing the components of that to make that stuff work. And you're probably not even going to ride 3 times a week.
Yeah.
So unless you've got that Betty who's just got that mindset that just to be an awesome horse, and they're out there, I think they're few and far between is what I'm realizing. Like that one you can just disregard and come back and you're just like, you're the best thing, and they want to please you, then you don't deserve to do anything other than that. You're not going to accomplish more than that. It's almost impossible.
One of my mentors, one time he's riding and he stuck his feet way out in the stirrups and he pulled his hands up here. He starts reining that horse around, kicking him. He looks at me. He says, Jake, sometimes you got to ride these things like a gunsel just so they get a little prepared for where they're headed.
Yeah. 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 No, they got to be. I heard once you got to be able to go get the mail on them. You got to be able to sit and drink a beer on them, and that is 100% the case. Like they got to be gentle, and then you got to be able to control their feet. And kind of circle back on what Bob said. You know, for the people, you got to educate them.
Yeah.
Making it as simple as possible. Again, hands back means stop. Hands to the right means go to the right. Like making all of this as simple as possible, not overloading the cues. And there's always like a 3-digit combination to get the horse to move ever.
Yeah. Has it got any buttons?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
I love that.
I mean,
question.
I don't know a whole lot about Casey Deary, but I saw a clip. He was talking about training his horse. I think it was to stop, but he was like, I can't even clap my hands and sing in church at the same time. Like, I need to have one cue to do the thing I want them to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good perspective because it makes it easier for the people, and a lot of times it makes it easier for the horses.
Anybody that does anything well, sport, equine, whatever if you do it well and you ask them, like, how do you do that well? Those are really good. They really can't even, they just do it.
Yeah.
I just do it. And it comes from time because they're the one in the saddle. They're the one, you know, with the ball. They're the one doing it.
Yep.
So to try to expect someone who barely rides, since that's what we're talking about, to just, if you know when something clicks, like you're riding around and something clicks, it's because you've done it a bunch.
Yep.
And then it's instinctual at that point. That doesn't just happen because you want it to. It happens because you do it. And that blown my mind, like the amount of people who own horses, and I'm guilty. I don't ride as much as I should, but I've noticed like when I string a bunch of days together, I'm like, man, this horse is just getting better. And I'm thinking to myself, no, you're just riding better. You're actually not screwing this thing up as bad, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Well, it's both.
it's both.
Yeah,
It's
It's
both.
both.
It is both.
That's probably where most people get in trouble when they get a horse home from a trainer is they don't ride the dang thing.
Mm-hmm.
They put it up. I can't tell you how many clients I've had that they came, they rode with me, they took it home, they rode it. Everything was great. They put it up for a month. They came back out and it got bucked off. Well, yeah, no joke. You took a 4-year-old and you locked it up and you fed it for a month. And then you expected it to be like your car that you left in the garage. And
Yeah. You got on it on
Last-
a full moon
last
on the
week-
coldest day of the week.
Yeah, last
This
week
one,
I
bro.
sent a horse home. I sent a horse home in November. I got a text last week about the first ride since it's been home.
Yeah, how'd it go?
Really good.
Well, so you did a great job there,
Yeah.
didn't you?
Yeah.
If it had gone the other way,
But
it'd
it
still been
did-
your fault.
Oh, she was pretty tickled with the horse, but all I saw was a text from her and it was a book, and I was like, "Oh, is it really good?" But it was just about how good everything went. So that's nice. But yeah,
We don't put enough expectation on the rider, on the owner. I
Yeah.
don't think.
So here's a funny story in this vein. No, we put a lot of expectation on their rider. They just don't
Well-
fulfill it.
Shots fired.
My podcast, I can say what I want. No. So we talked some about my Olaf horse, right?
Yep.
Little white horse. Some of you guys that listen to this may have known this horse. But this horse he's a really cool horse because he is great with kids. He's great with veterans. He's great with anybody that doesn't know how to ride. He's a perfect horse for a first ride because he's just not going to do anything wrong. But I can get on him and I can go, I can turn cows on the fence and circle him or whatever.
Yeah.
And he can dial in like that. Now, the funny thing about Olaf is that when I got him, I had him in mind as a kid's horse for my nieces. And I spent a lot of time when I was training him getting out of position, getting off balance, like I was about to fall off, and hanging there until he stopped. Because I was trying to set him up where if these kids got in a bad spot, he would stop instead of running off.
Yeah.
Because most horses, if you get off balance, they're going to squirt out from under you when they're young because they feel like they're going to be off balance and probably fall. So for him, I spent a lot of time getting off balance so that he would know that he was okay. Well, now we put people on him, and the biggest problem with Olaf is they can't get him to go anywhere.
Freaking thing to move.
You can't get him to move. So it worked exactly like it should, but sort of not.
Yeah.
But that's kind of goes back to teaching that horse where the right answer is. And, my hands come back, it means come to me or whatever. But one of the things that somebody told me early on that's meant so much over the course of this, and we were kind of talking about it a minute ago, we just didn't quite touch on it, is in this horsemanship thing, there's pressure and release, right? Everybody talks about pressure and release, pressure and release, pressure and release. And what we go to more often than not is moving away from pressure.
Mm-hmm.
But what you were saying about what does it feel like kinetically when I learn something new, that's what is when you're moving a horse towards release. So when you get that horse hunting the release and moving into release instead of away from pressure, where you're offering the release first and then adding the pressure as a suggestion behind it, that's when you get that horse really, really driving and really light. And that's when they feel like, they're right there under you and they're going and just hunting that good spot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my little spiel about that is the concept of press and release. It works on horses, animals of any kind, really. But it is, I kind of like tongue-in-cheek use the term, it's like caveman horsemanship, if that's all you do.
Yep.
Right? So you can take something that's not broke and it's standing in one corner of the arena, and you go up there with the flag and put pressure on it, it's going to move away.
Yep.
Like, that's just what it's going to do. So what you're trying to do is, get that horse, like you said, to hunt the right thing, follow a feel. People articulate it a lot of different ways. So you can use that press and release instinct, for lack of a better word, to educate them on what is, in my opinion, kind of a higher level of brain operation, really. Because, you can do it on press and release, but it's kind of just like motorcycle horsemanship, like kick them here and they move over here, kick them here and they move over there. And they just have so much more to offer because how freaking smart they are.
Yeah.
I want to bring up a point. Previously, we were talking about when you mentioned Olaf, it made me think about it. Well, we were talking a long time ago about when you had Olaf, and the reason he is part of he's so good as he is he was all you had for a long time. And that's to the point earlier. Like, you're gonna make it. Like if that's your only option, like if you got one coat, like you're gonna take care of that coat. It's gonna you're gonna figure out how to stay warm in that coat or whatever it is. Or
that's where you said those ones that are few and far between, like Betty or Olaf. It takes so much time. To make them that way because you've got to go and do all the things. I mean, that horse has been in parades, and we rode him through the Bedford skate park one time, and all over the place working cattle and ranch rodeos and everything else. And I mean, you do so many things on the horse, and they just get to the point where they're like, yeah, no big deal.
Yeah, I just think about how quick we are. Not that it's wrong, but like you switch a bit or switch a bridle or switch a saddle or switch a pad or switch a horse or switch this. And like, what if you couldn't?
Who does that?
Who does that?
Instagram cowboys.
But I'm just thinking, like, what if you figured out how to make it work? And then you'll probably be both. You'll be a better cowboy, and that horse will be a better horse. And I think that's true, and I think I've seen that bear witness. So.
Yeah. So I've been very blessed, either through traveling or the podcasts that I do. Like, I've gotten to talk to some really, really talented horse people.
Mm-hmm.
And to date, I think probably the best advice I ever got with horses is from, you know who Paul Arnold is? You know Paul Arnold?
Mm-mm.
He's a farrier down by like Mount Rogers area.
Okay.
And he'd come and help us work cattle sometimes. Paul's a really good guy, but just quiet. I think he's maybe a pastor now or something like that, but kind of quiet guy, and local farrier, all that. And I remember when I was like 15, 16 years old, we were working cows one day, and he's just like, the best thing you can do for any animal is give them consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's all this other stuff, and it's everything like that I've learned. I've been so fortunate to learn, but it boils down to all that stuff that now. Can you do it consistently?
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, because I have people ask me that, just because I get to talk to people with podcasts and clinicians and trainers and all that stuff. But that's like the best horse advice I've ever gotten. Like, if you just show up, and you don't have to ride them a lot, you just have to ride them often. If you just ride them a little bit often, oh my gosh, it's like someone's training them in the middle of the night. They just get better, because it's like, hey son, let's go throw the ball for 10 minutes before dinner. And then all of a sudden, he's starting in the little league game.
That's that old Ray Hunt. Do a little bit often, not a lot all at once kind of deal.
100%. Yeah. So that was the best. Lots of other people have articulated other ways, but I heard that when I was a teenager, and I didn't realize it at the time because Paul's just a guy in the area. But that was probably some of the best advice I ever got. Because if things ever aren't working, I try to reduce how long I'm working on them and increase the frequency on which I'm working on them.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I'm not saying you don't have to switch gears and try different things.
Which is counterintuitive for most people.
Yeah, I know, but
it's not working. I'm going to do it more.
Yeah. But most of the time it works, man.
Yeah.
You'd be crazy. You'd be very surprised. It's crazy.
Well, the frequency, but the shorter increments of time is the one that's counterintuitive.
100%.
Most people will say, well, I need to do this longer. I need to do it more. I need to get that right thing. But
so that's the problem, though, is they're not humans. And so they're like, there's no horse out there that's intrinsically motivated to be a bridle horse.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, guys. Like, that's just the case. So, it's the main difference, in my opinion. It's the reason, like, if Bob comes to me and be like, Joe, I want to get good at basketball. Coach me be good at basketball. You're like, okay, we're not going to leave this gym until you made 10 free throws in a row. Bob will stay up there all night if he has to, if that's what he really wants.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But the horse doesn't show up wanting to play basketball. You got to make practicing free throws fun and convince them there's something in it for them. Because they don't have aspirations of glory. They have aspirations of going back to their buddies and eating hay.
Yeah.
So I think that's the hardest thing for people that are new to this to get, is they're not intrinsically motivated the way a human might be to be good at something.
So what do you think, please? What do you think makes the horse happy? Like, how do you reward?
Peace.
Yeah.
Okay.
Being left alone.
Yeah. So give me an scenario. Like, let's say you're working on something. Like, give us novice equine people an example as a trainer.
Okay. I think a super easy example is that cutting flag down there.
Okay.
I try to, anytime I've done a session in this arena, I try to end it with the cutting flag. And it might be just like 5 minutes, but I always try to end the session with, can I get that horse to improve a little bit working that flag? Whether they're more hooked to the flag or they're operating on their hind end a little better or whatever it is. And so like again, most of the session could be about something else, like riding outside or doing whatever. But we pop in, work that flag, and man, it takes like 3 or 4 days. They get it. They get it. But it's probably the thing I've been doing the least amount with them. And it's probably the thing they improve on the quickest.
But how does that reward? Like, I guess,
Because when they do a good job,
yeah,
we're done.
okay. So they get to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily in the moment that you're like, I'm
Well,
thinking like, oh yeah, you backed up 2 more steps, really like this time.
Okay.
I'm thinking like, do I pet him a little bit more, or like,
I
in
would-
your opinion?
In my opinion, if you're trying to teach them something, I don't think petting them helps all that much. I think if they're bothered, you can pet them and they get comfort from that.
Mm-hmm.
But like, to use that cutting flag example, I think if that flag comes by and they just turn on a dime and it feels great and they did it all by themselves and that flag stops and you quit riding right there and they get to stop and just take a breather, like, you need to just sit there and let the world go by. And quite honestly, like, it's like the horse is taking in all this data, right? The flag's going by, I'm turning like this. If they do something right, you need to stop any data input as soon as possible, okay? Don't wiggle in your saddle. Don't pet on them. Don't like do anything. Just let them sit and like soak in that moment as much as possible, okay? And then, we visited about the evidence-based horsemanship deal a little bit.
Wait long enough.
Yeah, it can take them, if they do something right in their brain, that book at least says they'll rerun that scenario in their brain up to 20 times.
Really?
So it's like however long that took, you sit there 20 times longer. Not how long it took them to get there, but like the right thing, like that turn takes like a good 3 seconds of working the flag and it all feels like money. You sit there and then wait for at least a minute, if not longer.
And importantly, you wait for the horse to give you a sign of homeostasis taking place in the brain chemistry, whether it's a big exhale, a big sigh, a yawn, a head shake, licking and chewing, whatever it is, you're looking for that signal of they processed, they got it. Doesn't hurt to wait a little longer either.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, you'd rather wait too long than not long enough. And, I find myself telling this to people too, like, you only got to ride them when they're not doing what you want. If they're up there doing the right thing, whether it's, loping on the circle you want to lope or working the flag or holding the rope or whatever, like, just sit there, just balance on them and get out of their way, because they like that.
So you think they reward themselves, maybe? Is that what you're saying, potentially? You're just getting out of the way of them processing it and being... Yeah. Someone said the other day, it was parenting advice on reel or something, and I don't know if I agree with it all the way, but it's like, you say, son, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And they're like, well, that doesn't build self-awareness for them. Like, you should be like, son, you should be proud of yourself so that their pride comes from themselves. And I get that. I get both. I'm going to do both, right? But I kind of hear you're saying, like, get out of the way when they do something right and just be still so that they can, we don't give them enough credit. Like, we have to, you did such a good job because that's what we do as humans. But just be still and let them process it and be proud of themselves. It
goes back to like, okay, if like you're my kid and I'm trying to teach you how to throw a curveball, like if you just threw a curveball well and you're really trying to get better at this, like you're gonna sit there and like think about like what did I do different that time?
Yeah.
Okay. But if you just do it good on accident and then we're just throwing back and forth again,
right?
And then you're just kind of like throwing everything at the wall still and seeing what sticks. There's no like contemplation of, well, I did this like different and I got a little more on top of the ball or whatever it is. Like horses do the same thing. When you quit and they don't have to work anymore, their mind immediately goes to, what did I just do that's making it so I don't have to work right now? And then they're going to think about like, okay, it felt like this. My hock was right here and my back was lifted like this. And the flag was going like this. Like they got to process all that information. And so you've got like, and I'm not saying you can't be demanding of them and really ask them to do stuff, but when they do it right, you got to let them sit there and process that.
There's been a lot of times when I've been working with a young horse and trying to get something done and it hadn't been working, and then all of a sudden they finally get it and come through the turn or whatever it is, and I can't get off of them fast enough.
Yep.
Like, because like, and I'll literally, if I'm really working at something and it's just not getting there, then I'll tell myself, okay, when they come through on this, whenever they get a little bit better and it's right, I'm stepping off and I'm pulling my cinch right here and just letting them breathe. And there have been times when I've cleared both stirrups and jumped off just because I didn't want to screw it up, because I finally got it and I didn't want to add any more data input.
Yeah.
It's a wonder anybody that doesn't ride every other day or regularly can get it right at all. I mean, because that's not for nothing. Like that's what makes a really good horse, and people want really good horses, but
Yeah.
you don't just, that doesn't just come to you in your sleep as a human being.
Yeah.
Right? That takes time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a wonder. I guess they give us a lot of grace too, not just turning us into yard darts.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're very forgiving creatures, and I think a big part of the thing that we miss with horses is purpose. Like the horses figure out what their job is pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you know, we all have seen the videos of the horses that can sort calves from cows without a rider on them, right? Like they learn that stuff.
Yeah.
Turn them loose, they'll do it. You
100%.
know, there was you see that video the other day of the skijoring where the jockey fell off?
yeah.
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, they still ran the course. The horse ran the course, and the guy still skied behind it.
Yeah. Well, how about that gal that came off in the first barrel of the NFR?
I missed that one.
Yeah, that happened. This
Oh,
past
yeah,
year.
I saw that.
Yeah,
That's
she came. The horse finished pattern.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
ran out.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, yeah, they know their jobs, and it's spooky, man. Like if you steer them in the right direction, most of them want to do something, and they'll do it better. But
Another story on that Olaf horse, and you were talking about which one? One of y'all was talking about the pride that the horse feels in what they do. We were sorting one day, and this one cow had beat us 3 times because of the way the pen was set up, and just couldn't get her sorted, and she kept ducking behind us. Well, the 3rd time she went and ducked back behind us on the fence, before I could do anything, that horse swapped ends and gave her both back feet twice in the ribs on the way by, because he was like, piss on you, cow, you're leaving. We're not doing this.
yeah,
He was mad. It was so funny, though, because I'm sitting up there going, what in the world?
yeah. And then the last thing I'd say on the whole, like finding a place to quit thing, I have quit horses in places where I'm like, they got like that much better. And I don't even think they realize they got that much better, but I'm just going to quit them here. But they come back better the next day,
Mhm.
almost always. So it's not like you have to make this big eureka moment
Mm-mm.
every day. And it's just hard because you got to ride consistently. And one of the guys like we had on our show, Gus Olds, he was like the fitness guy, but it applies to horses too. There's no force like consistency. You're better off showing up every day and making a very mediocre effort at getting better than you are showing up half the time and giving your all.
Yeah.
And that's hard. It's really hard for people. It's hard for me still, but it's how it works.
That's a pretty good spot to start landing this plane. Before we get going, I did want to ask, you spent the last month or so here at Valor, and I'm always interested to see what people from an outside perspective, especially maybe not a military background, what they find in this place. This is sort of the official, unofficial Valor Farm podcast. But I'm interested to see what your experience was like here, and what you would tell the listeners about your experience.
Yeah. Well, I truthfully didn't really know what I was getting into, because I've been here a couple times, but I hadn't really been in all the way around the farm and in the community and all that stuff. I think the biggest thing for me, like, you come to a place like this, and especially talking to you guys, and you're like, well, we got different people and they're struggling with this and struggling with that. And I just didn't really, not that I came in here thinking I needed to like contribute anything, but I was like, I don't even know if I know how to talk to people like that. Right? Because I've visited with you guys about all the, basically how you got trained up and how you're prepared to handle things and be good at your guys' job. And it seems like for the most part, you guys like handle everything pretty well. And, you know, me being in a profession where I deal with people, but not like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not in that capacity where people are dealing with trauma and addiction and all these things. I really wasn't sure where to come at it. And honestly, most of everyone I've encountered as far as the Patriots go, and just people that work here, like, they just want to be treated like human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times, for whatever reason, they feel like they either can't or haven't been treated like human beings for a while. And so, you know, living in the community center and kind of just treating it like we're back in college and we're all living together. This is what it feels like.
Yeah.
Like, that to me is where it feels like if there was anything positive that happens, I felt like that was the positivity that came from me being here. But what's cool is, like, this culture is very much still building here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and what I was told, and I think it's true, because I was kind of right at that influx. Like, when they hired me in that software job,
mm-hmm.
they said, if you're making a hire that's one of the first 50 people that work for your company, you're still defining your culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so you guys are very much
mm-hmm.
in that stage. But it's cool because even in the time I've been here, I can see that developing. And the stronger your culture gets, I think the easier it's going to be for people that come here as part of the program to buy in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just funny how, like, everything that you guys make available for people here in terms of, you know, physical help and the mental help and the spiritual help, I still feel like the culture and demonstrating a way of being is the strongest thing you guys have going for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. So I'll say two things. Everyone that you deal with in life, whether you're an employee here or a horse trainer, everyone in this world, we forget this, deals with trauma
Mm-hmm.
and deals with addiction. It's just who's covering it up or managing a little bit better. Our guys tend to have gotten to a point where they're not able to manage it, or they're not doing a good job of managing it. Who's more in danger? The one that hides it better, or the one that can't hide it anymore? You be the judge of that. But everybody deals with, and that's what I've learned here, everybody deals with trauma. Everybody deals with
Mm-hmm.
addiction. Everybody has the same, different levels, but everybody deals with the hurt the same. So it's, yeah, you deal with it whether you realize it or not. You get to just see it a little bit more in your face potentially here. But, you know, who knows how what you've learned here and what you've picked up here will carry you into other places of your life and give you a different perspective. And you've definitely contributed since you've been here. I mean, I've talked to guys who've been like, yeah, Joe's awesome. Like, he talked to me, he took the time with me, you know, so And I tell this to everybody that's here for any length of time. If you're here, God's got you here for a reason. You just got to figure out why. It's not an accident. If you spend time here, it's not an accident because you'll leave. If you're not meant to be here, and I've seen that too, you'll leave. Or if you're supposed to be here for a while, and your expiration date hits for whatever reason, there you go too.
Yeah.
It's just wild to watch someone else. Like, this is probably one of the first times in my life, and just because I've probably been observant, you see that supernatural hand of God kind of doing stuff like this. And it isn't always immediate. Like, sometimes it's after the fact and you look back and you're like, oh, okay, that was God.
Yeah.
And you didn't necessarily see it in the moment. And sometimes you kind of do see it in the moment. But it's pretty cool. Certainly glad you got to get in the mix for a while, because I think it was good for everybody.
Yeah, it's been great. It was very humbling too, because again, I'm kind of, especially in the beginning, like pretty quiet and I just don't even know how to engage in that sort of setting, right? I mean, all my good friends are still the people I met when I was a teenager, you know. But it was definitely humbling that after a couple of days, like, guys would come up to you and ask you like real life advice, and I was like, well, I don't understand. Like, I just do the horse thing, and so that was pretty humbling. But it's definitely how do I put this? It has shown me the importance of all the little interactions you have with somebody, because a lot of stuff that can be really like throwaway for you has big impacts for other people. And so that, again, kind of what I said before, like, that's a culture thing, because that just defines all those little interactions, how they're going to go. So,
well, it's the same with horses. It's those little interactions. No matter how big you think they are, they're probably bigger for the horse or bigger for the person you're talking to.
Yep,
for sure.
So what is the future over you? Go ahead. What does the future look like for you?
Oh, I have.
You got any big plans on the horizon, or anything you're projecting, or your horsemanship, I guess?
Yeah, I'm gonna show some more. Been showing in like the ranch riding and some open versatility shows. Been really enjoying that. I think the horse show deal, if done properly, is really good, because it gives those horses a purpose. And they can learn their job and have their job, and, you know, maybe have like a little 4-H kid to take care of or whatever it is one day.
Is there a bucket list thing that you have not done that you want to do, like, in your career?
There are things I have on my radar, but I've kind of learned to just walk the path a little bit and see what God has in store. Because honestly, like, the goals seem to change like every 6 months. I've got a stud colt now that my wife and I bought. We bought him in a sale as a yearling last fall. So we'll get him started when I get home. But he'll be the first one that I really am going to try to do. I think we'll try to do like the ranch riding futurities with him. So it'll be interesting to see where that leads.
Cool.
How do they find McDonald Equine?
You can follow McDonald Equine on Facebook, or look us up at our website at mcdonaldequinellc.com. And then also anywhere on social media, you can look up the On the Move podcast.
There you go.
There are a lot of episodes on there.
Yeah, there's some really cool ones too.
Yeah, some big names and cool people, and yeah.
Jake's on there.
Jake's on there.
I've been there. Yep. Well, we appreciate you, and I, for myself, I really appreciate your help over the last month and stepping in and being a part of things here, not just isolating and being yourself, but giving back to the guys. So thank you for that.
Well, I'm going to tell him tomorrow before I leave, but yeah, like, honestly, the best part of my day has been that like the morning devotional. And I know, like, you can see it on their faces. There's a lot of those guys that
It
are not excited to be there in the
Awake.
morning. Yeah, they're not awake. They don't. But for me, it's like one of the best parts of my day because I just, again, I don't get to commune with people
Right.
the same way that happens here at this place. So interaction means a lot to me anyway.
You've been good company.
Yep.
For sure.
Heck yeah.
Yep. I'll miss you and your cutting flag when you go.
Yeah, BLI Cutting Flags. If you want to sponsor Valor Farms,
There we go.
give
Yeah.
them a shout out.
There you go. We'll take it. But all right.
So
well,
we give our guests the opportunity to pray out if they want to.
Okay.
It's not it's not an obligation, but if you'd like to pray us out, go for it. If you'd like us to do it, we'll do it.
I can do it. Okay. Father God, thank you for the opportunity to be here with Jake and Bobby today and allowing me to come here to the Veterans Center. Please look over both these guys as they continue to walk down this path you have for them. Please help everyone that comes into contact with this place, help it grow and become something more and something that honors you. Amen.
amen.
Well, catch us next time on Tall in the Saddle podcast and check out Joe's podcast on the move. Adios.
Adios.